In this watercolor demo, I paint a somewhat loose representation from this reference photo that I took. I did edit the photo a bit in Photoshop to simplify shapes and the scene. I started out by penciling in the major shapes. Okay, so I've laid out my large shapes on this 14 by 20 Arches rough 140-pound watercolor paper. What I'm planning on doing is a very light blue wash here into some light yellow tones here for the dunes, distant dunes. And then down here, more of the yellow undertones, and then into some green here, maybe some dry brush marks here to accentuate the lighting situation. So let's get underway with this. What I think I'll do first is wet some of the paper. I'm using a number 10 Escoda mop brush that's seen better days, but still functional. Very light. Don't really want to over soak the paper here with the water. Leave it at that for right now. No clouds, just a very light blue, which I'm going to use cerulean blue for that sky. Keeping in mind that my paper is already wet and that watercolor dries back quite a bit. It's still a good idea to vary the sky a little bit just to give it some interest. So maybe darker on one side. And with skies, as with most of what I do with watercolor, I kind of read it as I go. If something intrigues me, then I'll run with it. I wasn't going to do any atmospheric cloud stuff, but some of that looks kind of cool, so I will leave it alone. Then shift into some yellow ochre. And this is a first wash, sort of an underpainting, I guess. It's not by any means the finished look of what's going to be going on in this painting. Need more water here since I didn't pre-wet this part of the painting. Maybe leave some white there. And we'll just fill all this in here. This is pretty dark on this side. All up in here where these trees are. For this area down here, I think I will introduce some greens. We'll take some of that sky blue, the cerulean blue, and mix it with some of the yellow ochre. Hansa Yellow in there just to green it up some. Want to lean it more towards yellow, I think. Here's a little test piece of paper, and you can say, yeah, that's pretty good. So I'll go with that. If I drag lightly across the paper, I'll get some nice dry brush marks. I don't want all of it to be dry, but just in certain areas. Let's see, let's go with some more brighter color up right underneath that tree area, maybe up in here. Some bushes or something right there. And then maybe some down in here. Let's see what that looks like. There we go. I think I need to resist the urge to do any more brushing on this and just let that dry. You can see some bleeding going on there up into the bottom of the tree area. That's fine because it'll be darker there. If I was worried about it, I could tilt this up and just make sure that it didn't go too far. But I'm not too worried about it. All right, we'll continue after this dries off. The paper's dry. Now I'm going to work on some of the distant hills. There's some dunes up there and some trees, things like that. I'm going to switch to a number 4 Da Vinci Casaneo. A little too green, too strong. Weaken it some. My goal here is to vary the intensity and hue. I'll leave some space up here for some dune activity. Those are the Oceano dunes in the distance. I need this upper area here to be softer, so I'm just going to run over that. If I mix that cerulean with the Hansa Yellow, it creates more of an emerald green. I need to be careful with that. I don't want it to be so intense. The Ultramarine Blue is a warmer blue. The cerulean tends to be cooler, so it leans more towards a stronger green. Now, if I don't want all that, I can bring some rose in there and reduce that. Using the red as the complementary to the green. Get some nice atmospheric perspective colors. I'm not trying to copy the reference picture, just trying to get a sense of what it's like or what I saw. And varying the hue and edges will all work well for this endeavor. I may go in and add some darker tree-like things down there later. We'll see how that goes. And there is a kind of a field right here. Start getting into stronger greens. Now if I bring Cad Yellow in, of course that will strengthen the greens quite a bit, as well as add some body to the paint. I want to have a tree, or a couple trees maybe, breaking through that top area. When I do trees, I mostly pay attention to the edges, at least to start with. It's also a good idea to bring in some warmth in there, and I can do this by using a Quin Gold or a Rust or both. That looks like an elephant. I have to be careful about accidentally painting animals or people. I'll be covering the bottom of the first layer. Too wet yet to put in some of these darks, but I don't mind having them blur a bit. That's when you get these natural blooms. As long as you don't add too much paint, it kind of splays out and you get free branches and treetops. Got larger trees to put in here, but if I put them in right now, this is wet, so it'll all blend together. Don't really want to do that, so we'll wait. And we want those lost and found edges too. can get some nice texture by swiping the belly of the brush against the paper. Get a nice golden color here. Just sweep some of that up around the tops of some of this. I didn't used to like painting trees. I always thought they were too difficult. I've learned to loosen up some and kind of let watercolor do its thing. Get some more grays going on here for shadows. There's a nice dark area right in here. Want to keep that light area, at least some of it. Now I'm going to switch to a flat brush and bring some different shapes into play here. Taking advantage of the wet paint that I've got on there already. A warmer green here, adding in some darks. This is all dark down here at the bottom. Yeah, I want that to flow, so give it an extra legs there. Let's go with a larger brush, keeping those background trees somewhat lighter. Need things to flow a little bit more. I think it's drying a bit, so we'll loosen it up. This is separating this back row from this front row now, which is more in the shade. I'm going to have my hard edge and more contrast going on there. Just keep piling on the paint. That's fine. We'll see what happens. Dark gray, almost black. But then come in with some golden stuff right around it. Kind of mix it around. And there's some up in here too. Nice variety of hues. We're going to connect all that with the top. It's quite the parade of trees here. Got some Holbein lavender, and that's fun to charge that into some of these foreground. Still can move some paint around. The trick with this is to do it at the right time, but then also you always want to scratch back when it's darker paint. Then we've got these I decided to put this one away for a couple of days. Then I retaped it to the plexiglass and started adding some additional shadows, some additional foliage texture, and texture in the foreground. Mixing up some titanium white in raw sienna, I'll put in a few little branches and parts of trees to bring some of that forward and show light. And I think I'll wrap this one up. I do like the mood of this somewhat loose watercolor and that atmospheric perspective, the very light blue hazy background. And I thank you for watching, and if this is something you enjoy, please consider subscribing and giving me a thumbs up.